The relationship between the names Iceland and Greenland has fascinated people for centuries. The irony of their names seems confusing at first glance, with Iceland being lush and green in many areas, while Greenland is largely covered in ice. To understand why this is the case, we need to dive into the fascinating history and geography of these two lands. The naming of Iceland. Iceland's name has roots in Viking exploration during the 9th century. Norse settlers were among the first to discover the island, and one of the earliest explorers was a Norwegian named Nadid. As the story goes, Nadid discovered the island while traveling to the Faroe Islands. Upon arrival, he was struck by its desolate and cold appearance and named it Snaeland, which translates to Snowland. Soon after, another Viking named Geir Svaberson arrived. He circumnavigated the island, confirming that it was indeed a landmass and not just a cluster of smaller islands. He built a house on its shores, and the settlement was temporarily called Gerarselmi after him. However, it was another explorer, Floki Vilgerarsson, who gave the land its lasting name. Floki traveled to the island with his family and livestock to settle there. The winter proved harsher than he anticipated, and his livestock died. As the story goes, Floki climbed a mountain, looked across a fjord filled with ice, and decided to name the land Island, or Iceland. This name stuck, likely reflecting the settlers' first impressions of the harsh, icy conditions they faced. Over time, though, settlers discovered that Iceland's climate was not entirely frozen. Thanks to its volcanic activity and relatively mild temperatures for its latitude, the island also had fertile soil and abundant greenery in the lowlands during the warmer months. Iceland's weather, influenced by the Gulf Stream, keeps much of the island habitable and suitable for farming and fishing. The naming of Greenland. The story of Greenland's name takes us to the 10th century and one of the most famous Viking explorers, Eric the Red. Eric was exiled from Iceland due to a series of violent disputes and decided to search for new lands to settle. Around 982 CE, he sailed westward and arrived at the icy landmass we now know as Greenland. Despite its icy and uninviting appearance, Eric saw potential in the land's southern coastal areas, where there were patches of greenery during the short summer season. These areas were suitable for grazing livestock, and he envisioned establishing a colony there. To attract settlers, Eric strategically named the land Groenland, meaning Greenland. The name was a marketing ploy of sorts. Eric believed that calling it Greenland would paint a picture of a fertile and hospitable land, encouraging others to join him. The name worked, and Eric successfully established two Norse settlements, the Eastern Settlement and the Western Settlement. Despite the optimistic name, life in Greenland was challenging. The Norse settlers struggled with harsh winters, limited resources, and eventual conflicts with the indigenous Inuit populations. The settlements thrived for a few centuries, but eventually collapsed due to a combination of climate change, resource depletion, and isolation. The geography and climate of Iceland and Greenland. The ironic contrast between the names Iceland and Greenland becomes more apparent when examining their geography and climate. Iceland is located just south of the Arctic Circle, while Greenland is situated farther north and is the world's largest island. Iceland's climate is relatively mild for its location. The North Atlantic Current, an extension of the Gulf Stream, brings warmer water and air to the region, moderating its temperatures. This influence, combined with volcanic activity, creates a landscape with geothermal springs, lava fields, glaciers, and fertile plains. While Iceland does have significant glaciated areas, such as Vatnajökull, the island is predominantly green and lush in the summer months, especially in the south and west. Greenland, on the other hand, is dominated by its massive ice sheet, which covers about 80% of the island. The ice sheet is one of the largest in the world and is a key component of the Earth's climate system. Greenland's climate is much colder than Iceland's, with harsh winters and short, cool summers. While its coastal areas, particularly in the south, do support some vegetation during the summer, the island is far less hospitable than Iceland overall. Historical context and climate change. The differences in Iceland and Greenland's environments are also tied to historical climate trends. During the medieval warm period, approximately 950 to 1250 CE, temperatures were slightly higher in the North Atlantic region. This warming allowed Norse settlers to establish colonies in southern Greenland and farm the land to some extent. However, as the climate cooled during the Little Ice Age, around 1300 to 1850 CE, Greenland became increasingly inhospitable. Meanwhile, Iceland's volcanic activity continued to shape its landscape and provide resources. Volcanic ash enriched the soil, making it suitable for agriculture. Additionally, geothermal energy became an important resource for heating and farming. Despite facing challenges such as volcanic eruptions and occasional harsh winters, Icelanders adapted and thrived.